The story begins in 1962, where we see a massive, luxurious Italian ship named Antonia Graza in the middle of the ocean. Many people are traveling on the ship, and a party is happening in the lounge at the party. A girl named Franchesca is performing, and everyone is enjoying it immensely. However, a young girl is sitting quietly all alone. Seeing this, the captain of the ship invites her to dance with him. At this moment, we see an unknown person raising the ship's lever, which causes the ship's metallic cables to tighten and cut through everyone in the lounge, splitting them into two halves. The young girl, being shorter, is unharmed. Seeing this horrifying scene, she screams in terror. Now we are shown a scene 40 years later, where we see a salvage crew including Captain Murphy, Moren, Greer, Dodge, Mundar and Santos. They are responsible for rescuing ships stranded at sea. For various reasons, we see them enjoying themselves in a bar. At this moment, a weather service pilot named Jack comes in, introduces himself to Captain Murphy, and says, "A while ago, I saw a ship. The middle of the ocean. I even tried to contact the ship, but there was no response." According to Jack, the ship was far off the shipping lane, but since it was in international waters, whoever brings it to port would claim it as theirs. Hearing this, they agreed to go after the ship, offering Jack 10% of the profit. Jack agrees. They then set off into the ocean aboard a tugboat named Arctic Warrior. After a long journey, they detect a massive ship on their radar. However, the strange thing is that the ship keeps appearing and disappearing from the radar. They don't see any other ships ahead of them, so they continue ahead, confused. Suddenly, they spot a giant ship ahead. They try to stop the boat, but it crashes into the ship. At this point, Captain Murphy realizes that the giant ship is none other than Antonia Graza, which had mysteriously disappeared 40 years ago without any emergency signals now, except for Jack and Greer. The other four enter the ship. As soon as they step inside, they begin hearing strange noises. An old clock's pendulum on the ship is still swinging, but when Mundar reaches out for it, the pendulum suddenly stops, and a loud sound is heard, causing them to get scared as they walk down the corridor. The floor suddenly collapses under Mundar and he begins falling. Fortunately, Moren manages to catch him just in time at that moment. Moren sees a girl standing in the hall staring at them. Before she can think, the girl suddenly disappears. After some time, they manage to pull Mundar up. As they continue to check the ship, they find a digital clock. They are all astonished when they see the digital clock, because such clocks didn't exist 40 years ago. Murphy says surely someone must have been here before us. This clock must belong to them. Then they decide to tow the ship to safety and return to the tugboat. Moren is still thinking about the little girl she saw on the ship, noticing her being lost in thought. Jack asks her what happened. Mean tells Jack that she saw a little girl on the ship. Jack reassures her that must have been a trick of the mind. Don't think about such things. The next day, when they check the lower part of the ship, they realize there are holes in the hull, causing the ship to fill with water and sink. This means they can't just tow it. The ship needs repairs first, so they decide to fix the ship, but it will take them another 3 days to complete the repairs. We then see them all busy with their tasks. Moren reaches the swimming pool area of the ship. There she sees several bullet casings and numerous bullet holes in the walls of the pool. Surprised, she begins to leave the pool, but as she walks out, she sees the girl again ahead of her. Startled by the sight of the girl, Moren trips and falls, hitting her head, causing her to bleed. We see her blood sinking into the pool's water. At this moment, Jack arrives, pulling Moren out of the pool and taking her away. Meanwhile, we notice blood beginning to flow from the bullet holes in the swimming pool walls. Gradually, the pool fills with blood and numerous bodies float in the water. On the other side of the ship, we see Murphy entering the captain's room. He finds a glass of wine when Murphy lifts the glass. He sees the captain in the mirror sipping from the same glass. This shocks him. Meanwhile, Greer reaches the lounge where we saw the party. At the beginning of the film, he hears Franchesca singing, but when he looks around, he sees no one. However, we see Franchesca sitting right there in the lounge. Next, we see Jack and Moren arriving at the cargo room where luxury cars from the old days are stored. There, Moren spots several boxes filled with gold. Surprised by this, she calls over the rest of the crew. Everyone is ecstatic when they see the boxes of gold, and they decide to leave the ship, taking only the gold and returning immediately. They begin loading the gold onto their tugboat, while Santos checks the boat's engine. At this moment, we see an invisible force opening a propane tank valve. Just then, the girl appears, warning Moren not to start the boat, but before she can act, someone grabs the girl and drags her away, unaware of what's happening. Greer starts the boat, causing a massive explosion, killing Santos. Now they realize the only way to escape is to repair the Antonia Graza, so they decide to stay on the ship. Everyone is grieving Santos's death. Now Moren wants to learn more about the girl. She searches the passenger book and starts looking for the girl's room. After a long search, she finds the girl's room. When she checks it, she finds a hanging skeleton which horrifies her. Meanwhile, Greer enters the lounge where suddenly everything becomes normal just like it was in 1962. The people on the ship are applauding him as though the party is still going on. Then Franchesca approaches Greer, seduces him, and leads him to the edge of the ship where she pushes him off, killing him by dropping him from above. Next, we see Murphy sitting sadly in the captain's room. Suddenly, the captain appears in front of him, offering him some wine, and also handing him a diary from the diary. Murphy learns that the Antonia Graza had rescued a ship called Lorelei that had sunk, and that boxes filled with gold had also been transferred to the Antonia Gra. Surprisingly, only one person had survived the Lorelei disaster, and it was this person's rescue that the crew had carried out 2 days after rescuing the Lorelei. The Antonia Graza had mysteriously disappeared. Finally, the captain shows Murphy a photo of the person who was rescued. When Murphy sees the photo, he is shocked. Meanwhile, Moren enters the girl's room where she finds a locket hanging from a skeleton. At that moment, the girl appears in the room. Moren then realizes that the hanging skeleton wasn't anyone else's but the girl's in reality. The girl had died long ago. What Moren had been seeing was the ghost of the girl. The girl tells Moren, "My soul and the souls of my friends are trapped on this ship. Whoever trapped us here will keep us here until they fulfilled their quota." Before the girl can explain more, a supernatural force enters the room. The girl, frightened, warns Moren to leave the ship as soon as possible. Then the girl suddenly vanishes on the other hand. Murphy now knows everything, so he goes to inform the others. However, he starts hallucinating, causing him to see Moren as the ghost of Santos, who begins to taunt him, mistaking Moren for Santos's ghost. Murphy attacks her. Moren struggles to defend herself. Just then, Jack arrives and manages to save her. Everyone believes Murphy has gone mad, so they lock him inside a large fish tank which is empty of water. Now they are determined to leave as soon as possible, so they all begin repairing the ship. Moren, however, goes off to search for Greer. During her search, she encounters the girl again, who shows her Greer's body, which has suffered a horrific death. Now the girl takes Moren back to the past to 1962. Here it is revealed that the lone survivor rescued from the Lorelei had been behind all the killings. He had convinced the Antonio Graza crew members to poison the food and kill others. Some were shot by the swimming pool, while many were cut down by metallic cables. The girl herself was hanged in her room, all for the gold. When they finally find the gold, Franchesca arrives, manipulates an officer, and orders the remaining workers to be killed. The only officer left alive is then shot and killed by Franchesca. Now we meet the mastermind behind all of this. The sole survivor from the Lorelei ship, the one who cleverly releases a hook, strangling Franchesca and killing her. When Moren sees this person, she is shocked to realize that it is none other than Jack, the man who had brought them all to the Antonia Gra. Seeing this, Moren begins to worry about Murphy, so she goes to the fish tank where he had been locked up. But unfortunately, Jack had filled the fish tank with water and already killed Murphy. Despite this, the photo that the captain had given Murphy, which was in Jack's hand, is still with him. Moren is deeply saddened to see Murphy's fate. Afterwards, she arrives at the dock, and at that moment, Jack shows up there as well. Moren pretends to not know anything and tells them both to stay there, handing Dodge a shotgun. She then goes to a nearby area, but we see that a supernal force pulls Dodge and crushes him in a machine as blood starts flowing from the pipes. Moren realizes that Dodge has died. Now, Moren decides to blow up the Antonia Graza and sink the ship, for she realizes that this is the only way to defeat Jack. Meanwhile, Jack makes his way to Moren's location, but Dodge tries to stop him, saying that Moren had told him to stay there. Jack taunts Dodge, calling him a coward, which provokes Dodge to shoot him. Dodge believes that Jack is dead on the other side. Moren has already set up explosives to blow up the ship. Just then, Dodge arrives, begging Moren not to blow up the ship. However, Moren ignores him and starts the countdown. At this moment, Dodge suddenly transforms into Jack, meaning he had already killed Dodge. Jack says, "I'm just like you. I'm a salvager too, but instead of collecting ships, I collect souls." We now understand that Jack was actually a demonic spirit, whose job was to provoke people into sin before killing them and sending their souls to hell. Jack had planned to use the Antonia Graza to trap more souls. Jack then attacks Moren, but she manages to strike him in the leg with an arrow. Distracting him, seizing the opportunity, she shoots an arrow at the detonator, triggering an explosion that blows Jack into pieces. Moren falls into the water, and at that moment the girl's spirit appears, showing her a way out of the ship. As the ship slowly begins to sink, We see the trapped souls, including the girl being freed and ascending to heaven. Moren floats in the sea holding onto a box for support. Fortunately, the next day a cruise ship rescues her. We then see Moren being placed into an ambulance as she looks around. She notices the same boxes of gold being loaded onto the cruise ship, which she had seen on the Graza. Just then, Jack appears on the cruise ship staring at Moren before boarding the ship. Seeing this, Moren screams, and with that, the film ends.